Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. I'm Chief Sweet and today we're going to be talking about humid hides, specifically how to make one completely from scratch, DIY, and if you have one of these, what do you put inside of it so it stays humid? Let's get into it, shall we? So what can you use to make a humid hide that's not like this one? This is from Zilla. This is the medium rock layer. I love this one, and it's very important to remember this. On these hides, you need one with a closed top. You're probably like, why is that? Because I do see this a lot. I see it inside of the reptile hobby and other things as well, or people talking about it. But when they put a hole on the top of the hide, all that humidity is just gonna escape. It's just gonna go right out the top. If you have it closed and the hole's on the side, the humidity is just gonna go to the roof and stay there. It's not gonna escape. You're gonna be like spraying the humid hide 24/7 if you have a hole at the top. It's not gonna stay humid. It's gonna be way harder and it's gonna be way easier if the top is closed and the entrance is on the side, okay? Very important to remember. Zilla, I think, had one before this, a humid hide, and the humid hide was like that. It had the hole on the top, and I was like, you know, what are we doing here? You want the hole on the side. Then they came out with this model. Love it. Bought like 10 of these, and this is an extra one that I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's get to the DIY part. You're going to see a lot of people, a lot of keepers make DIY hides, and you can too. I like the one that looks like natural. I'm a naturalist. I like it when it looks natural and cool. But a lot of people also just use Tupperware containers or even like old food containers that they've cleaned out. Very important to make sure it's clean. If you like and stored some toxic chemicals in here, do not use that. But food safe containers, perfectly fine. And if you've been in the wild, human trash is everywhere. A lot of times if you see these out there, like maybe they're cracked open, you lift it up, there's lizards and snakes underneath because it just holds humidity exceptionally well. And a lot of lizards and snakes, even in arid climates, seek water out. Just natural, makes sense. So how are you going to make this into a hide and ruin a good Tupperware container? I'm gonna show you. So all you need is a knife. A butter knife will do. I'm hoping YouTube doesn't take this video down for violence because I'm showing a butter knife. We're gonna cut butter, YouTube. But we have a butter knife, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna heat it up with a lighter. And be very careful. Do this in a very well ventilated area because you are melting plastic. It's gonna give fumes off. But you don't wanna just cut into this and have a hole, because if you do just cut into it, it's gonna have jagged edges, and that's not gonna feel good when they go inside of it. Their belly rubs up against it. You want smooth, a smooth surface, so that way when they go inside of it, they're not gonna get their skin caught. It's not gonna cut them going inside of it. It's smooth and gentle. They can just glide right across it. That's why we're gonna heat up the butter knife with a lighter, and you just heat it up for a good, maybe like 40 seconds to a minute and a half. Just holding that lighter, getting it real hot. And you're gonna have to do this a couple times. You're just gonna go ahead and stab it right into the plastic and try to make a circle. You can draw a circle that's about the same size as your reptile and draw it on there so that we have something to trace, and it's not just like it doesn't matter. You don't have to be pretty. I mean, obviously you're using a Tupperware container. So just go ahead and get like a permanent marker or something, draw the circle on there, just stab it in there and start just trying to melt that hole out of the Tupperware container. Now it might take a bit if you have a good Tupperware container like this one right here. But if you do not, and you have like a KFC, you have a KFC box like this right here, it's probably gonna melt insanely fast. I don't even think this is microwavable. Oh, this is microwavable, safe, and reusable. Nice. Anyways, so same thing. You wanna cut it on the side, and this is very thin plastic, so it's just gonna melt very easy. You can mark it, and then just put the butter knife in there, and just go around the guide that you made, and then bam, easy as that. So now that we got our humid hides made, what do we put inside of the humid hide to make it humid? You can't just have an empty container and spray water in it. That's not gonna work. You're gonna need some sort of substrate or something in there that holds onto the water and keeps it moist. So there's two things. You can use, first of all, some actual substrate, which I mix this myself, and I'm gonna show you how I mix it right now. You can use Repti soil and Repti sand to make this mixture. However, I just get giant quantities of the exact same thing. Repti sand and Repti soil is just basically smaller packages of play sand and organic peat moss. You could look at the description on the bags of Repti soil and Repti sand. It will tell you that it's the exact same ingredients as this. It's not gonna say it word for word, but on Repti sand, it's gonna say it's like quartz sand, natural quartz sand. That's exactly what play sand is. And on the Repti soil, it's gonna say it's natural organic peat moss, the same as this. I just buy mine in huge bulk sizes. You don't have to do that since we're just making humid hides. So Repti sand, Repti soil, what you're gonna do is you're gonna mix those together at like a 60-40, maybe a 70-30 ratio. It's hard to give a really good guide on how I mix it. I pretty much just eyeball it. But I do it until it pretty much looks like this, and it kind of clumps together very nicely as, like, you know, a good little, it starts to clump together with the sand. You can see the sand in the Repti soil. It's not like, it's not there when you start mixing it. You can pull out, you can like just look at the Repti soil and see that sand is mixed in. That's how I like it. Now this is how I mix my dirt up. I just pretty much throw it in a bucket. Now if you get a Repti sand and Repti soil, you can do it the exact same way because it's pretty much going to be the same way. But usually the soil is very dry in Repti soil and this giant peat moss bag I bought. So I like to get it moist and then mix in the sand. And as you can tell, I put a lot of sand on there and I mix it up enough to where you can see the sand in the soil itself. Like I said, the bad thing about it is I don't have a ratio, I just eyeball it. But pretty much if you do it like this, it's gonna be perfectly fine. As long as there's sand in there. I don't know what it is, but when sand's in there, it just feels good. It holds moisture better. It's just all around better in my opinion. Now, if you wanted to, you could just go Repti soil only if you really wanted to do that. Also, before we get out of this, I would like to say some people, it's not my favorite, but it does work. It's just, if you want to try this, you can. It's just not my favorite, and I don't like it, but others love it, and that's why I'm adding it in this video. You can also just put a paper towel inside of the Humid hide and use that only. Just spray it down, make it moist, and that'll work as well. So that's an even easier option if you didn't want to use dirt at all. It does work. However, for me, I feel like it dries out too fast, so that's why. And you know, I want stuff to last, be moist for a good while. This does dry out pretty fast. You have to kind of moisten it every now and then. Now, it doesn't dry out in like a matter of hours. It dries out in a matter of days. But I want my stuff to stay moist for like a week, and that's why I don't like it as much as the soil. And then once you have that mixed up, I like to add some sphagnum moss. I buy mine in huge bulk quantities as well. Where else from? The same place I get my peat moss and play sand from, Lowe's and Home Depot. But a lot of people just use the sphagnum moss. They just put the sphagnum moss inside of the container like this. So a lot of people just like to do it like this, just put it in there like that, and that's all they do. You can do that if you want to. I like to do mine a little differently, and I'm gonna show you exactly how. I like to see this right here. This is just huge quantities. For like $5, you get a giant brick. You could buy it at your pet store too. I think Humid sells, it's like New Zealand sphagnum moss. This is the same thing. See, the same exact thing. I like to get this, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix this in with our substrate as well. Now, you don't have to mix this in with the substrate. I like to because I feel like it just looks better, it feels better. It almost feels like a natural like soil if they went under a rock and they dug underneath there. That's how it would feel. And then once we have that done, we're gonna go ahead and add it to our Humid hide. And you can add like 25% covering the bottom. You don't have to add a lot, but just enough to cover the bottom and make it kind of almost a tight fit, but not too much of a tight fit. Because a lot of lizards like a very snug, just think of how you put a blanket on in the middle of the night and you feel safe. Lizards and reptiles think the exact same way. They want a very snug, good fit to make them feel safe, to make sure, you know, they're not sleeping in a giant empty cave where anything could come down and attack them. They want something very snug, you know, surrounding them on all sides. So it's good to make sure you get the appropriate sized container for your reptile and the appropriate amount of dirt. So that way when you know, it's not just like a little bit of dirt and it's kind of a smaller snake and he has a lot of room up top. Kind of fill it a good portion to where if he crawls in, he kind of almost has to dig or move something out of the way, but it's enough for him to know like, oh, this is a hole. I can go inside this hole. It's humid. I can be safe. And that's all I have for you today with how to make a Humid hide. I hope I was of some help. If you have any questions, you can drop them down below. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more reptile content, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.